In today's video, I show you how to install and configure Uptime Kuma. Uptime Kuma is an easy-to-use, self-hosted monitoring tool. It keeps an eye on your services and your containers, and you get reported when something fails. Let's get Uptime Kuma set up. Before we get started, have you signed up to receive our newsletter? It's a monthly publication with Unraid news, written out guides, and more. Also, come join us on Discord. It's a growing community where you can post questions and answers to tech questions, along with just hanging out with like-minded people. Join now so you don't miss out. I've left links to both down in the description. On to Uptime Kuma. As always, we're going to start with installation. To do that, we're going to jump over to the Apps tab, and in the search box, we're going to search for Uptime Kuma. You'll see it's the only one that came up for the results, so once you find it, click on Install. In the container itself, let's scroll to the bottom and expand Show Docker Allocations, so when we look for ports, we can look through all of them to see if the port's available. I'm going to double click on the port number and hit Control F on the keyboard, and that'll bring up the web browser's find feature, and it'll show us the results here. It's found 2, and both of them are right here. We're just wanting to make sure there's nothing down here in the current allocations. If you've got more than 2 results here, then you've got something listed down here. I just go ahead and increment this port up by 1, so make it like 3002. Once again, do another search for it. If that's clear, then go ahead with that port. Whatever the case may be, just remember that port because we're going to need it later. Once you've got your port number set, go ahead and click on Apply. And I'll click Done. Now that that's installed, today's video is sponsored by Brilliant. Brilliant is a self-paced but guided, easy way to learn with bite-sized lessons that are both quick and fun. Learn by doing. Interactive lessons make it easy to learn and absorb complex ideas. Whether it is math, data analysis, computer science, programming, and AI, or science and engineering. There's plenty to learn. Choose from 60+ courses. No matter what your level, Brilliant has something for everyone. Start off with easy exercises to get an understanding of the concepts, and then progress to advanced exercises to really lock in your skills. Brilliant helps you to stay motivated too, with engaging lessons, daily encouragement, and competing with others. Stay on top of that leaderboard and keep your streak going. Learn right from your web browser or on the go from your mobile device. Gamify your learning with Brilliant and get smarter in 15 minutes a day. Join more than 10 million users and start learning new skills today. To try everything Brilliant has to offer free for a full 30 days, visit brilliant.org/alientech42 or scan the QR code on the screen. You can also click on the link in the description. Using that link, you'll also get 20% off an annual premium subscription. Now let's jump over to the Docker tab. Here, we're going to look for Uptime Kuma.
It's not a tumor.
Over on the right, we're going to click on Auto Start. Now let's go over to Uptime Kuma's icon, click on it, and let's go to the web UI. First thing it wants here is to set up an account. So choose your language, put in a username. I'm going to call this one just AlienTech. Password, super secret, and repeat the super secret password. They do not look like they match. Let me do that again. Then hit create. Now we're logged in. Before we get to the setup and configuration, a quick story here. The other day, I upgraded my Unraid server to version 7, and I had a bit of a panic when it failed to boot back up. I went over to the rack to take a look at the monitor and see what was going on, and the server was not able to detect a USB device. I'd feared that the drive had failed, and I knew that I didn't have a quality drive to replace it. It turns out that my trusty Samsung flash drive was just fine. It was just dust within the device that was making a bad connection. So I took it out, cleaned it, everything was fine, booted right up. Long story short, make sure to order yourself a backup USB device just to have on hand just in case yours fails, because I would have been down for a few days without one. I mean, I've got some cheap ones around, but I just don't trust those. So I ordered one. It showed up right here, so it's still in the package. I'm just going to keep it here in case I need it. You should order yourself a drive, have a replacement on hand just in case. So I'll leave a link to my favorite one in the description if you want to check it out. All right, onto the setup. Over on the top left, we're going to click on Add New Monitor. Then in the center under General Monitor Type here, we've got several different types to choose from. You've got HTTP, TCP, ping, there's all kinds of stuff here. DNS, Docker containers, push notifiers, Steam game servers, SQL stuff. There's all kinds of stuff. So you just look through your list here. I'm just going to do the default one here just to show you how it works, but they're all pretty much the same. So I'm going to leave it on HTTP. Friendly name, we're going to tie this to the Mealy database. So we'll call this Mealy. Just give it a name. The URL, let me go check that real quick here. Oh, it looks like I need to update it too. Whatever the interface is, you put in the URL for it. In this case, it's my local server. Put in the port number with it. Heartbeat interval. This is how often you want to check to see if the site's up. 60 seconds, I think, is an adequate number. The retries, this is how many failed connections before it's marked as down. The default is 0. That's, I think, a good number. If you have something that's kind of hit and miss or kind of laggy or whatever, you might want to, bump that up to 1 or 2. Next down, we have the heartbeat relay interval. The retry is every 60 seconds. I think that's a fair amount. The request timeout is next. 48 seconds is default. Once again, it's a good number. Scroll down a little bit. Resend notification if down X times consecutively. So this is going to be the number that you set on how many times it's been reported internally to itself that it's down. Like how many times Uptime Kuma has noticed that it's down. The default is 0, which is resend is disabled. I typically use this for something that if I have, the retries up here set for a couple and then it still fails after it's failed, 2-3 times in a row, you set that number down here, let's say 3 times. If it's failed 3 times, 3 minutes in a row, then it would send another notification saying it's really down. I'm not kidding. All right, next option down here under advanced, we've got the certificate expiry notification. And basically this is saying, do you want to get notified if the cert expires? And yeah, I would do this. And on that note, let me turn that on. There we go. On that note, I just received an email, I think it was yesterday, day before, from Let's Encrypt notifying me that they're no longer going to be sending out emails on cert expiration. So if you use their service at all, you definitely want to turn this on here because they're not going to send out notifications anymore, which it was really nice that they would tell you that your cert was getting close to expiring, but what do you do? Because of that, I definitely enable this. They ignore TLS, SSL error for HTTPS websites. You can enable it if needed, but I'm going to leave it off. Upside down mode. If the service is reachable, then it's considered down. That's what that does. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that off. Scrolling down some more. Max redirects. I'm going to leave it on the default of 10, but just so you know, the maximum number of redirects to follow, you set to 0 to disable the redirects. Next, we have accepted status codes. This is basically saying what returned codes are considered fine. The default is 200 to 299, but you can choose, other ranges. There's all kinds of stuff here. And you can do ranges. You can choose individual status codes. There's all kinds of stuff in here. I'm going to leave it on the defaults and move on. Monitor group. You can group different services together and have all of those monitored as one. That's basically what that is. You just hit a plus there and create a group. Tags. You can create a tag. You just click on add and you'll create a tag there. Scrolling back up. On the right-hand side, we're going to go to notifications. Here's where you set up notifications to get notified if something is down. Just click on set up notification. There are a tremendous amount of different options here. So whatever your notification service is of choice, there's pretty much everything. Once you choose your service, you just fill out the required information. Name of the service you can put here, the host name, the port, security, different user ID, passwords, that stuff. Once you fill it out, you hit test, make sure it works, and then save it. And if you have a proxy set up on your network and you need to enable that, then you'd set up a proxy here. If you need advanced HTTP options, you can fill out the information here, whatever you need. I'm going to skip over that because I don't need any of that. And I'm going to jump down to authentication. If the site you're wanting to monitor needs authentication, then you can select the type and fill in the details here. So if it's like a basic, HTTP authorization, then you'd select that, put in the username and the password, and then it would log in through Uptime Kuma just to make sure that the service is up and running. Once you've got everything filled out, go ahead and hit save. I usually give it a moment, make sure that it actually is reporting back fine, and I've got my first screen indicator here saying that it's up and working. Down here it says it's up, so that looks pretty good. At that point, I'd scroll all the way up, then you just click on Add New Monitor, and then you repeat the process for each service that you'd like to be monitored. All right, let's set up another one real quick for Radar. Call this Radar. I already grabbed the URL, just going to paste that in. Going to leave all the defaults here. I'm going to turn on the certificate expiry notification. Everything else looks good. And then for authentication, my Radar instance here needs authentication to log into it. So I'm going to go ahead and put that information in just to show you how that works. You select your HTTP basic auth, put in your username, which is demo for me, and then my super secret password. Hit save, and there you go. It's showing that it's reporting. Now let's say you put one of these in here and it started failing, but you know that it's up. You probably got something wrong. You need to go back and edit that. Let me show you how to do that real quick. To do that, you'd click on your site, whichever one you need. We'll use Radar here. In the top center option here, you'll find Edit. Go ahead and click on Edit. That opens settings back up. You can go through, adjust whatever you need to. And once you're done, you hit save. And just so you know, every time you hit save, it forces a refresh. So it should show you right away whether or not it was able to communicate with it. Let's do that again. We'll click on an item here. You'll notice some other options up here. You've got an option to pause it if you don't want it to monitor. Like you're gonna do some maintenance and shut it off or do something like that. You could pause the monitoring for now. Edit we've already seen. If you want to clone it, which is kind of nice, you're like, okay, now I want to set up sonar. Pretty much identical. You can just hit clone, same information, tell you it's a clone. We'll name this one sonar. Not sure the port number on there real quick. Let me check. It is, where's it at? 8989. Notice that one has login as well. There we go. That's all good. I believe the authentication stuff is the same. We'll hit save, and there it is. Comes right up. Then the other option up there is delete, and obviously it deletes it. So you just find one you want to get rid of, click it, click delete. It gets that out of there. Now that we've got some simple HTTP sites added, let's go and add a database. Go back up to add new monitor. This time under monitor type, we're going to drop down and select the MySQL/MariaDB. And for friendly name, I'm going to name this the name of the database I want to monitor. In this case, I'm going to put in ROM-M. Next, we have the connection string. This is the location, the user ID and password and information for the ROM-M database or whatever database you're working on. Typical format here is the username, colon, the password. However, there's a password field here, so we can get rid of that part of it. We don't need that. At the host and port number, and then the / database name. So for the ROM-M one, the user that I have for ROM-M is ROM-M, and the host will be the server that the MariaDB is running on. My demo server is 10.0.0.11. Then the port number for MariaDB, the default port, or whatever port you have yours set to, but the default port is 3306. And then the / database is the actual database name within your MariaDB container. And mine is just ROM-M, just like that. Then the next field password is going to be the password for that database. So let me put that in. And then next we have query. Under query, you have to put in some kind of SQL command here so that it can talk to the database and know whether or not it's up. Their example here, the select one, is a great one, so let's just use that. And it's got to be in caps with a space. Once again, you'd select your notification system up here. The heartbeat interval, the retries, all that stuff is the same information here, upside down. We don't need to worry about that one. If you had a group, you could throw it in the group. So for the description, I'm going to put in ROM-M dash, and then the type of database, so MariaDB. Tags are good. Everything else there should be fine, so I'm going to hit save. We should come back with green, yes. So that one's working. So that's how to add a single database. Now let's say you wanted to monitor the whole MariaDB database container itself to make sure that the whole thing is running. It's really pretty similar to this, so let's go ahead and add another one. I'm going to go up to the top here and do add new monitor. Once again, we're going to drop down and select the MySQL MariaDB. Friendly name, I'm just going to call this MariaDB because it's for the entire database. Connection string, pretty much the same, except for it's the login credentials for the MariaDB itself. So it's going to be root. There is no password. Then the host, which is once again going to be the server address of your MariaDB instance. For me, it is the same, 10.0.0.11. And then the port number is once again the same. The default is 3306. And then the / database, we can just get rid of that because we're not checking an individual database. It's just the whole container itself. And then for password, you're going to put in the password for your whole MariaDB container. That's the one that ties to your root account. So it should be a pretty secure one. Whatever the case is, just go ahead and put in your password for that. Same with the query. We need to have the same type of query down there. So I'm going to use the same thing. Select one, and we'll scroll down and we'll give it a description. I'm just going to call this MariaDB, and then I'm going to hit save. And that comes back green as well. So that one's working. Typically when I'm setting these up, I don't like to have the notification turned on right away. I like to do that after the fact, make sure all the stuff is working. So back here on the dashboard, make sure everything is good. Once everything's good and you're happy with it, then at that point, you can go into one of them, go back to edit, go to notifications, and set it up at that point. Now let me show you another little handy feature. Right here next to dashboard, it says status pages. If you click onto the status pages, it shows you your current status pages, which there are none. And then it allows you to create a new status page. And what a status page is it's a public page basically that you can give out to your friends or family, or if you have a business, you can give out to your clients or whatever the case may be. But you can put in individual containers inside of here, and then that'll have its own website that people can go look at to see if their services are up or down. It's kind of a nice little feature. Let me show you how to do that real quick. We'll go click on new status page, and I'm going to name this ours just so we can have something to throw in there. So we'll monitor the ours. And then the slug here is going to be what follows at the end of the website address that it's going to create. So this will be the last little bit at the end of that URL. So for me, I'm just going to do ours. It's simple and it fits what we're doing. Go ahead and hit next. Then the description, we're just going to call this all the ours. The next you have add group. If you need a group, go ahead and add one. I don't, so I'm going to go down to the next one, add a monitor. So this is where you can add the different services that you want to get monitored. So you click into there and then you select the ones you want. In this case, I'm going to do the ours. So radar and sonar, select one, find the next one, add it. If you add more, you can just keep adding, but that's only 2 that I want in this status page. Now that we have our services added, let's go save it. Bottom left-hand corner over here, you'll find save. And here we are at the ours status page. You'll see the 2 services that we selected. We've got the radar and sonar, both showing their uptime here. Notice the URL up here. If you're going to share this with somebody, this is the URL that you just copy and share with them. Note that this is an internal IP address, so it's not going to be visible from the outside world. But if you have, your own domain name, you could set it up so it's going through a public domain. Or if you've got some other kind of remote access VPN, then you could always come in that way too. All right, let's go back to the dashboard. You'll see here on the dashboard, you've got the ours here underneath the status page. If you want to go into it, you can just click onto it. It'll take you back into it. If you need to edit, you can just click on the edit option, add more services, delete them out, whatever the case may be. Save, or you can discard your changes. Going back to the dashboard. Well, that covers most of how to set up Uptime Kuma. Let me show you more about the settings side of it. Over here in the top right, you'll find your A, or in this case, it's your initial for whatever your count is. Mine is Alien Tech, so that's why that's an A. Under there, you've got maintenance. If you want to set up a certain maintenance window, so that if you're going to do maintenance and shut down stuff, update services at a certain time, you wouldn't want to be getting notified with, messages that they're down. So if you set up a scheduled maintenance here, it'll prevent all those things from popping up and annoying you. So to set up a schedule, just go ahead and click on schedule maintenance. You can put a title in here, like weekly maintenance. Full description if you want. Affected monitors. This is where you're going to select the different, applications over here or different monitors that you have being monitored. You can just click on it, select them out of the list here. Let's do radar and sonar again. They show up there. Status pages. Do you want this maintenance to affect all status pages or just select ones? This is just ours, so I'm going to select the ours status page. But you could also, like I said, just check mark, does everything. Scroll down a little bit and we'll find date and time. Underneath that, you'll have the strategy. This is what type of maintenance window you're setting up. This is a single maintenance window, meaning it's going to be once, just set it and go and be done. If you wanted to do like recurring certain interval, every whatever the case may be, you'd set that certain day of the week or, day of the month. Next, you have time zone. You can select pretty much any time zone you want, but I typically do just save as server time zone. The next, you have the effective date range. This is optional, but you can set a certain date and time that if you're going to do service and it's going to be at the same time all the time, you can just set it here and it will automatically kick it into maintenance mode at that point in time. When you're all done, you hit save. I don't need any maintenance on this right now, so I'm going to go back to the top here and we're going to go to the next option under settings. All right, under general settings here, we've got the time zone. You can set it whatever time zone the display in. You can also set the server time zone. Next option down, we have the search engine visibility. Here you select whether or not you want search engines to be able to index your sites or not. And by default, it's no. You want to discourage that. I'd choose that. Entry page. Do you want to go to the dashboard first or do you want to go to the status page? And then if so, which status page? Scrolling down a little bit here, you've got the Steam API key. If you are running a Steam game server, then you're probably going to need a Steam API key. This is where it would go. Once you get your settings set, at the very bottom, you've got save. Let's go to the next option here, appearance. Under appearance, you've got the language. You can select from a number of different languages. You can do the blinding light theme if you'd like. Get a suntan with that. Or you can do the dark. Oh, much better. Or you've got auto, and my system defaults to dark, so I just leave it on auto, and that makes me happy. Next, we've got theme. The heartbeat bar over here. You'll see normal, bottom, and none. And this is the position of it. So normal is there, bottom will be underneath here. Shows more of them, it's kind of nice. And none just gets rid of it. Normal is fine. Next option, you've got elapsed time under the heartbeat bar. Let me show you where that's at. So show with no line, show with line, and none. I'm gonna go show with the line, and that way I can tell you what basically all three of these are. If you go into one of your services, you'll notice you've got these individual little bars here. Underneath it, you'll see the 39 minutes ago and now. This is the timeline as it flows through. On this one, I chose with the line, and that's right here, this line you're seeing. That's what that is. The none gets rid of the words in this line. Those are all gone. And then the normal one just has the times at the ends. We'll go back to settings real quick. Under appearance, I'll just go show no lines. I don't need the line. All right, next we got notification. If you hadn't set up notifications, this is where you can do it at. You go set up your notification here for TLS certificate expiry here. The default is 7, 14, and 21 days. If you want to set up a custom amount of days here, you could add in another one. You can delete these out. Let's say, 29 days. You just 29, hit plus, adds it to it. Simple. Save it when you're done. Next one down, we have reverse proxy. If you have a Cloudflare tunnel set up, you can put the tunnel token here. Once you got that entered, you'd save at the bottom. Tags. I briefly mentioned tags earlier. Let me give you a quick little explanation here. If you want to add new tag, click add tag. We're going to name this ours. Color, select, orange. Sounds good. You can also put in your custom color code if you have one. Then you add the services that you want tagged. So this is for the ours. Let's go ahead and select radar and sonar. Just like that, hit save. Now you'll notice over here, those two have little tags on them. That's what the tag does. Monitor history. This is the history of how far you want Uptime Kuma to keep information for. 180 days is default. That seems like a good number for me. You can set it to 0 if you want infinite retention. Whatever number you want, you can hit save and save it. If you need to shrink the database, you go ahead and click it there and it'll shrink it down. If you want to clear all statistics at once, you just click the big red clear all statistics. All right, next we have Docker hosts. If you have any Docker hosts set up, they'd be here where you can set up your own. Security, if you need to change a password, put in your current password, enter a new password, and then repeat the new password. And then, of course, update it. Two-factor authentication. If you need to set up 2FA, you do that here. Then to disable authentication, you do that down below. API keys. If you have any API keys to add in, you add them here. Proxies, you set up proxies here. And then backup. You can export a backup here, or you can import backups. You can keep both. You can skip the existing, or you can overwrite what's there. And then about. About just says basically what Uptime Kuma is about, some basic information. It's got the version number here. You can check for updates, although I wouldn't update through the package here. Just go about the normal update process within Unraid. That's pretty much it. That's Uptime Kuma in a nutshell. It's kind of a nice, handy little program. If you found this video helpful, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, consider becoming a Patreon. Patreon members get early access to my videos, and they are ad and sponsor free. I'll leave a link down in the description. Until then, check out one of these next. And I'll see you in the next one.